Deep in the misty mountains of Hancock County, Tennessee, lies a story as old as America itself, a story of identity, survival, and rediscovery. These are the Melungeons, the mysterious mountain people once shunned, misunderstood, and nearly erased from history. For generations, they lived on the rugged ridges and winding hollows of Appalachia, hiding from a world that refused to understand who they were. The Melungeons were described as having dark skin, straight hair, and European features, people who did not fit into the rigid racial categories of the 18th and 19th centuries. Some said they were of Portuguese descent, others believed they came from Turkish sailors or native tribes, while a few even whispered they were survivors from the lost colony of Roanoke. But the truth, as always, is more complex. By the late 1700s, records from Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee began mentioning small, isolated groups of free people of color. They weren't enslaved, but they weren't considered white either. In a nation obsessed with racial boundaries, they simply didn't belong. To escape persecution, many fled deep into the mountains, carving out lives in remote hollows far from society's reach. There, in places like Newman's Ridge and Blackwater Valley, they built their own communities. They farmed the land, raised families, and developed a unique culture, blending European, African, and Native American traditions into something entirely their own. But life in the hills wasn't easy. During the 1800s, as racial segregation grew harsher, the Melungeons found themselves trapped between worlds. Labeled mixed or colored, they were denied basic rights, barred from voting, owning property, or sending their children to white schools. Many families were forced to change their names, hide their heritage, or move away to pass as white. Their stories were buried, whispered only within families, their pride replaced with silence and fear. Yet, even as time moved on, the Melungeon spirit endured. In the 20th century, as America began confronting its complex racial past, descendants started searching for their roots. Historians, genealogists, and ordinary families began uncovering old land deeds, church records, and family Bibles that revealed the hidden truth: that the Melungeons had always been part of America's earliest chapters. And when DNA testing emerged in the 1990s, it confirmed what oral tradition had long suggested. The Melungeons were a mixed people, with European, African, and indigenous ancestry. Their existence challenged the simplistic notion of race in America and revealed how deeply interconnected our origins truly are. Today, Hancock County is no longer a place of hiding. Every summer, Melungeon descendants gather for reunions, sharing stories, music, and pride in who they are. The word Melungeon, once used as an insult, has become a badge of resilience. It represents generations who endured prejudice, yet held on to their humanity, their families, and their sense of belonging. Walking through the hills of Sneedville or standing on Newman's Ridge, you can feel their presence in the quiet wind and the red clay paths. The Melungeon story is not just about race. It's about identity, courage, and survival. It's about people who refuse to be defined by others, who built a life in the face of rejection, and who, centuries later, reclaimed their name with pride. The descendants of Hancock County remind us that America's history is not black or white. It is a mosaic of many colors, cultures, and stories. Their journey from shame to celebration is a testament to the power of truth, the strength of heritage, and the unbreakable will of a people who never truly disappeared. Hidden deep in the rugged hills of eastern Tennessee lies a story of quiet resistance and untold courage. The story of the Melungeons, a mysterious mountain people who refused to disappear. For generations, they lived in the hollers and ridges of Hancock County and beyond, clinging to the only thing the world couldn't take from them: their identity. But when the age of Jim Crow swept across America, bringing with it a brutal code of racial separation, the Melungeons faced a choice that would define their survival: hide who they were or risk losing everything. The Melungeons were already a people between worlds, neither white nor black nor Native American, but something in between. With dark skin, light eyes, and European features, they didn't fit into the racial lines that defined 19th century America. For decades they had survived by isolation, farming their land, building their homes, and living in tight-knit communities far from society's reach. But when segregation hardened after Reconstruction, the government's laws reached even the remotest hollers of Appalachia. And for the Melungeons, that meant the world they built in peace was suddenly under threat. Jim Crow didn't care about history, family, or truth. It only cared about color. If your skin was too dark, you were labeled colored. If your ancestry was mixed, you were denied the right to vote, to attend white schools, or to own land in your own name. For the Melungeons of Tennessee, these laws were devastating. Families who had farmed the same hills for generations suddenly found themselves erased from legal records. Children were turned away from classrooms. Some were forced to move across county lines just to live free of persecution. But they did not surrender. In the face of silence and shame, the Melungeons adapted. Some changed their surnames, intermarried with white settlers, or moved deeper into the mountains to escape racial classification. Others, defiant and proud, stayed and fought quietly, refusing to deny who they were. They built hidden schools in the hills, taught their children to read by firelight, and passed down stories of their ancestors in whispered voices. Their faith, music, and oral traditions became their lifeline. Life in the hollers was tough. Dirt floors, small cabins, rocky soil. But those hills offered something the outside world couldn't: protection. The Melungeons' isolation became their shield. They grew their own food, made their own tools, and created a community that survived because it looked inward when the rest of the world turned its back. As the 20th century dawned, the Melungeons' identity faded into rumor and myth. Outsiders saw them as mysterious, even dangerous. Local legends called them dark strangers or foreigners, while county records reduced them to a word: colored. But among themselves, the Melungeons kept their truth alive. They knew who they were: descendants of European, African, and indigenous peoples, a living symbol of America's mixed beginnings. It wasn't until the late 20th century that their story finally began to emerge from the shadows. In the 1990s, descendants across Tennessee and Virginia began uncovering old documents, family stories, and DNA results that revealed what their ancestors had always known: that the Melungeons were one of America's first multicultural communities. Today, their legacy stands as a testament to endurance. The Melungeons of Tennessee survived centuries of discrimination, poverty, and isolation, not through rebellion or violence, but through resilience and unity. They defied the system by simply existing, by refusing to let their story be erased. The hollers that once hid them now echo with pride. Family reunions, cultural festivals, and history projects have brought their names back to the surface. What was once whispered in fear is now spoken with honor. The Melungeons' journey through Jim Crow isn't just a story of survival. It is a story of quiet defiance, of a people who refused to disappear even when history tried to forget them. The next time you look across the Appalachian ridges of Tennessee, remember the Melungeons, the mountain people who turned silence into strength and survival into a legacy. If you liked our video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.